He thought he'd seen pain before, until the day he saw her, the woman who once ruled boardrooms and hearts alike, sitting in silence, her trembling hands signing away a love she never stopped fighting for. And when she tore that pregnancy test in half, he realized, some goodbyes don't end a story, they start a miracle. So if you're ready for a story that will make your heart ache, your soul heal, and your faith in love return, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and stay till the end, because what happens next will stay with you forever. It was raining that morning. The kind of slow, cold rain that made the city seem lonelier than usual. Ian, a single dad in his early 30s, was waiting in the lawyer's office, clutching his 3-year-old daughter's stuffed bunny in one hand and a folder of financial documents in the other. Life hadn't been kind to Ian. His wife had died giving birth to their daughter, Rita, and he'd been raising her alone ever since. To make ends meet, he worked as a driver for a prestigious corporation, Horizon Enterprises, where the CEO, Mahek Khan, was known as one of the sharpest, strongest women in the business world. But today, Mahek wasn't the powerful CEO everyone feared. Today, she was just a woman whose world was falling apart. When Ian entered the office to deliver a file, he froze. Mahek sat across the table from her husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband, Rehan, a polished businessman who looked more concerned with his phone than the woman silently crying before him. The lawyer slid the divorce papers across the table. Mahek's hand trembled as she picked up the pen. For a second, she looked at Rehan, hoping for one last word, one last reason to stop, but he didn't even raise his eyes. She signed, tears rolled silently down her cheeks, smudging the ink. Then, as the papers were taken away, Mahek reached into her handbag, pulled out something small, and stared at it, a pregnancy test. A faint positive line glowed on the stick. Ian realized what it was only when she suddenly tore it in half and whispered, "It's too late now." That moment broke something inside him. She stood, holding her composure with the last thread of strength she had, thanked the lawyer, and walked out. Ian couldn't stop watching her, that powerful woman who looked like she'd lost everything. Later that night, as Ian waited outside the office to pick her up, Mahek came out in the same gray suit, soaked in rain. She sat in the car silently, staring out the window. "You don't have to say anything, ma'am," Ian said softly. "But sometimes, even the strongest people deserve to fall apart." Mahek looked at him, surprised. Her voice cracked. "How do you keep going, Ian? After losing someone?" He smiled faintly. "By remembering that love doesn't end when people leave, it ends when we stop believing it mattered." In the following weeks, something changed. Mahek started noticing things she hadn't before, the way Ian's daughter would wait for him with a smile brighter than sunshine, the way he'd run home in the rain just to read her bedtime story. There was a gentleness in him that she hadn't seen in years, a kind of love that didn't demand, didn't hurt, didn't leave. Ian, too, began seeing the real Mahek, not the CEO everyone feared, but the woman who'd forgotten what it felt like to be held without judgment. One evening, when Rita ran up to Mahek with a flower she'd picked, Mahek's eyes welled up. "No one's ever given me something just because," she whispered. Rita grinned. "Daddy says people who smile with sad eyes deserve flowers every day." That night, Mahek couldn't sleep. For the first time in months, she felt something she thought she'd lost forever, hope. But fate wasn't done testing her. A few days later, Rehan returned, furious, jealous, and desperate to save his image. He accused Ian of manipulating her, threatened to destroy his job and reputation. Mahek stood there, torn between her past and her future. Ian didn't defend himself. He simply said, "If you believe him, ma'am, I'll understand. But just know, I'd never stand in the way of your peace." Mahek's voice trembled. "You already are my peace." She turned to Rehan and said, "You can take the company, take everything. But I won't let you take away the one thing that finally made me believe in love again." Rehan left in shock. Months passed. Mahek slowly rebuilt her life, not as a CEO chained to a boardroom, but as a woman who finally knew her worth. She started a new branch of her company, one that supported single parents and women starting over. Ian helped her manage it, and together, they built something stronger than business, a family. One day, Mahek stood on the rooftop, holding Rita's tiny hand. The sunset reflected in her eyes as Ian walked up beside them. "Life's strange," he said. "You lost something you loved, and found something that needed you." Mahek smiled softly. "No, Ian. I didn't lose love. I just learned where it truly belongs." As they watched Rita chase the last light of the evening, the wind carried a quiet peace between them, the kind that comes only after storms. Ending narration, emotional and motivational tone. Sometimes, the universe takes everything from you, not to punish you, but to make space for something real, something lasting. Mahek thought she'd lost love when she signed those divorce papers, but she found it in the laughter of a child, in the loyalty of a man who never asked for anything in return, and in the quiet truth that love, in its purest form, always finds its way back. If this story touched your heart, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, and share this with someone who believes love only happens once. Because sometimes, love just comes back in a different form, softer, stronger, and real. Red Heart.